Hi everyone, welcome to our talk, I Want to Be Unique from Other Robots, Positioning Girls as Co-Creators of Social Robots in Culturally Responsive Computing. Our study proposed co-creation as a new paradigm for realizing culturally responsive computing education. Specifically, we introduced the concept co-creation with a social robot technology. And instead of co-creating external artifact with the robot, we make the robot itself the co-created product. We situated our work in the realm of culturally responsive computing. Traditional computing education focused on equipping learners with the technical skills. CRC emboldens learners as techno-social change agents, encouraging critical reflection on technology and society. Through CRC, learners understand their intersectional identities, critique existing power structures in their lives, and use technology as a tool to effect social change. To implement CRC, we propose co-creation as the vehicle because it allows for reflective conversations between the technology creator and the created object. This example is a demonstration of how we define co-creation. The story describes that the learners powered on the robot she built for the first time. The robot asked her to change the design of voice and eyes because the robot wants to be unique from other robots. In this story, her robot is more than a tool she programmed. It is also a companion that can express its opinions on its final design. In other words, the learner engaged in co-creation with her robot companion. The learner and their robot are co-creators of the social robot. Being a creator, learners are solely responsible for the creations, and the social agent does not influence the creative process. In our context, being a co-creator means learners create both for and with the social agent. The social agent is involved in the design process as well, and their contributions alter the final design of themselves. This work investigated the research question, how do learners embody the role of creator and co-creator of a social robot technology, and contribute a discussion of how the roles of creator and co-creator can realize CRC. We recruited 2 cohorts and in total 50 middle school girls for virtual participatory design sessions. Each session allows learners to ideate and communicate design ideas of the identity of their social robot. We gathered all artifacts designed by learners as well as their reflective discussion. For data analysis, we conducted a thematic analysis of the data collected. Learners in the participatory design sessions were not interacting with functional co-created robot prototypes. Instead, learners were primed to think about creating a robot companion with prompts and design activities. Take session 5 as an example. Learners were asked to create stories in response to prompts that encourage them to think about where the robot might have a sense of agency. For example, one story prompt was, you created your robot and they think you left out some important body parts. Write a story about what parts the robots want you to add and why. Discussion questions further probed who can create different aspects of the robot and how to navigate disagreements. Both the activity and discussion questions position learners as co-creators. In sum, we compare how students position themselves as creators and co-creators within these 3 themes. Who has the power to make decisions in human-robot relationship, what decisions are being made, and how the human-social-robot relationship is maintained. However, in this presentation, I will focus on how co-creation with robots on designing the robot's identity help learners reflect on their needs and values. Whether positioning as creators or co-creators, learners reflect on their personal needs and expect to control what the robots were designed for, as well as what they could accomplish for the creator. As creator, learners expect to hold control over design decisions, and robots should meet their personal needs. In one of the design sessions, we asked students to design the identity of the robot. Here's a design from students. Gloria proposed adding boots to the robot since she expected the robot moving around the house, and boots would protect the feet from being damaged and maintain their balance. And Shannon recommended equipping the robot with a utility belt containing a first aid kit which could be used to help with injuries. And because we didn't prepare boots or belts in our design assets, Gloria and Shannon added sticky notes as an indication of the visual assets to build a robot that fully meet their personal expectations. As co-creator, learners negotiate robot's design choices. They remain in control of the robot purpose. In Session 5 Reflective Discussion, learners reflected on aspects of robot identity that humans should decide. They mentioned that they wanted to hold control which group of people the robots are designed for and what the robots should do for that target audience. As Diane stated, robots are designed for different age groups. If a 9-year-old or someone young got the robot and it used big words that will be hard for kids to understand, they'll have a hard time. Another emerging phenomenon is if robot requires modifications on functionality-related features, they will negotiate and reach a common ground with robot without changing its core purpose. Here's an example of negotiation. Diane wrote a story in response to the prompt, "You created a robot and they think you left out some important body parts." Her robot asked her to take away their ears and toes. Removing toes had no impact on the functionality of her robot, while having ears was directly tied to her desired functionality. So Diane agreed to remove toes but negotiated the removal of ears since she expected her robot to be able to hear. The robot suggested that she put things that hear stuff inside their head and then they would still be able to hear just without having ears, and they reached to this consensus. From the findings, we proposed 2 design opportunities of integrating co-creation in CRC learning experiences. Our first design implication is direct co-creators towards a shared purpose rather than assigning specific tasks. To maximize the benefits of co-creation, we should de-emphasize specific goals and problems and center learners' values and support their expressions of power. Said another way, co-creation inspires socio-technical reflection by allowing learners to consider why they're designing a technology and what they need as individuals and as community members. Another design guideline relates to the agency of the co-creative robot. The co-creative robot should challenge learners on its own design, particularly its functionality. From the findings, we observed learners' unshakable control over their robot's functionality. We hypothesized that robots challenging their design related to their ultimate functionality could result in more complex negotiations between the learner and the robot, as well as a deeper reflection on the learner's identities and values. In conclusion, our results indicate that co-creating with a social robot can foster reflections on learners' identities and needs. From the data, we observed whether positioning as creator or co-creator to design the identity of the robot, learners expect to hold control over robot's functionality. Therefore, we suggested that, first, for further designing a co-creation experience with robots in supporting CRC education, the co-creative tasks should de-emphasize specific goals and problems in order to provide spaces for learners' reflection on their own needs. And we suggested for designing a functional co-creative robot, the robot should be able to challenge its functionality to facilitate learners' deeper reflection on their own identities and values. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.